Welcome to Moose on the Loose, your source for uncorrupt media. My name's David. Today, I'm going to be showing you a clip of Pierre Poilievre ripping the WEF. Then he rips Justin Trudeau a new one. Just rips them both. It's very refreshing to see. I'm not a fan of the WEF. I think this is just a bunch of losers wasting our money. They're a bunch of globalist billionaires mingling and trying to get world dominance. Here we've got Klaus Schwab, the guy who started the WEF. You can see here, World Economic Forum, 1971. I made a video about this whole situation just 2 days ago, and it's funny. I kept on getting reminded of this old badger of someone. I couldn't figure it out, and then I finally realized it's Cecil the turtle. And you guys came out with some clutch suggestions here that are hilarious. So one of you suggested he looks like Sam Eagle. And this one, Dana Carvey from The Master of Disguise. So leave your comments down below. Who do you think Klaus Schwab looks closest to? Dana Carvey, Master of Disguise, Sam Eagle, or Cecil the Turtle from Looney Tunes? Okay, let's jump into this. Pierre Poilievre first ripping the WEF, and then we'll get to Trudeau.
Drea Humphrey again with Rebel News. In the past several times, you have denounced the World Economic Forum, and you've made it clear to pledge that if your party forms government, you will ban your cabinet ministers from being involved with the World Economic Forum. Yet, I'm also aware of many Canadians who applaud you for saying that, but also have reservations on whether or not the claim is authentic because they see images of your name being on the World Economic Forum site, and also because you worked closely with former MP John Baird, who at one point was a World Economic Forum young global leader in a campaign. So my question for clarification purposes, for those concerned about foreign globalist organizations potentially encroaching on our nation's sovereignty, does your pledge to ban cabinet ministers from being associated with or involved with the WEF expand to those you hire as staff as well as advisors?
Yes. No staff, no ministers, no MPs in my caucus will be involved whatsoever in that organization. It is a group of high-flying, high-tax, high-carbon hypocrites who all got on their private jets to fly off to a remote ski village where they talked about how working-class people should not be allowed to heat their homes or drive their pickup trucks. I'm not going to work for a group of globalist billionaires who serve their own interests at the expense of everyone else. And I'd like to specifically point out Mark Carney. Here he was celebrating the central banks who caused the inflation by printing trillions of dollars so that people like multimillionaires like him could have their asset values inflated, while the purchasing power of working class people and seniors was wasted away by inflation. A massive wealth transfer from the have-nots to the have-yachts. A common-sense conservative government will bring home control of our democracy to this country, and it's not just on that issue. We will ban the IRGC to end the interference of the 700 agents that are operating in this country on behalf of the terrorist regime in Tehran, and that's according to Global News. We will shut down foreign-controlled police stations. We will bring in a foreign influence registry. We will bring home control of our democracy, and we'll make this a country that works for its people, the common people, and the common sense of the common people, united for our common home. Thank you.
That right there, what he just said, is the reason I will be voting for Pierre Poilievre in the next election. The WEF is a corrupt organization I want to have nothing to do with. I want to have no part of that. It's such a breath of fresh air to hear Pierre Poilievre just ripping the WEF. He's not going to have any members of his government in that globalist, as he said, high-carbon hypocrite organization. We shouldn't have Chrystia Freeland, Justin Trudeau, like they should not be going there. Chrystia Freeland spent $15,000 flying there just a year or so ago. To do what? To mingle? To further increase their wealth? To network with all these billionaires? It's a bunch of nonsense and an absolute BS. I don't want my tax dollars being spent, not even a dime of it, on that nonsense with Klaus Schwab. The next couple clips we've got here is Pierre Poilievre ripping Justin Trudeau, just taking off the gloves and just going full steam. It's very clear he's had enough. He's had enough of the state of Canada and what Trudeau has done to this country. Let's get into it.
Hi, Georgie Smythe, CBC News. Do you believe it's the right move for the federal government to cap the number of international students arriving in Canada for the next 2 years? And would you do the same? I'm looking for an answer in English and French, please.
Yes, the question is, how did we get into this mess? Like, we didn't, most Canadians didn't even know there was an international student program 8 years ago because it was so peaceful. They might have seen students happily walking off to class who were from another country, but we didn't think it was a problem because it wasn't. It worked. We had the most successful immigration system in the history of the world here in Canada. There are nations around the world that come to study how we got it so right for so long. And then along came Justin Trudeau, and through his total incompetence and irresponsibility, through his endless and nauseating virtue signaling, has destroyed that common sense consensus on immigration. Immigrants, international students, and temporary foreign workers are not to blame for his incompetence. He is to blame. He is the one that caused this mess. He is the one that brought hundreds of thousands of people here without homes, to cram 16 or 17 into a one-bedroom or basement apartment. He is the one that granted the work for the study permits. That is a federal responsibility. He and Sean Fraser granted the study permits for tens of thousands of students to come and go to fake colleges that the Liberal government now admits were, quote, puppy mills. He did that.
If you're not familiar with what's going on here, basically there's a bunch of people creating fake universities so they can get foreign students to come over. They have these phony, basically, programs just to make money off them, and students just go along with it because it's a way for them to immigrate into the country without using the immigration system. It's an easier system to get in. The Trudeau government knows this. They're just taking advantage of it. I wouldn't be surprised if Trudeau and his cronies have investments or financially owners of a bunch of these phony universities and colleges.
Who is responsible for this disaster, and that is our incompetent Prime Minister. Can you think of anything he hasn't screwed up? Like, seriously, it has been, we never had 2 million people at a food bank. Sure, we always had people who struggled. 2 million people at a food bank? We never had a 100% increase in housing costs in 8 years. We never had middle-class carpenters living in parking lots. We never had 30 homeless encampments in Halifax all at once. And we never had the division and the chaos in our immigration system before Justin Trudeau, which proves once again he is not worth the cost. He is not worth the country we know and love.
Absolutely disgraceful, the state our country's in. Next up here, he goes and does the same reply in French. Then he continues to rip Justin Trudeau again with the next question.
A month and a half ago or so, it was revealed that the BC office here at CSIS was a toxic workplace for women especially. It's resulted in lawsuits and a workplace culture assessment. And I'm wondering what the reaction you had when those allegations came out publicly. And I'm wondering what a Conservative government would do to improve the working conditions at places like CSIS, at places like the RCMP and the military that have been rocked by these scandals in the years past.
It starts at the top. Justin Trudeau has created a toxic environment right across this country. Remember, it was Justin Trudeau that elbowed a woman in the breast on the floor of the House of Commons.
On the left, the Prime Minister comes striding over to intervene. He has words with Mulcair. At the same time, he clearly also makes contact with MP Ruth Ellen Brosseau. You can see Brosseau angrily telling her colleagues what transpired. Mulcair is enraged.
He elbowed the member from RTMS. He manhandled the whip of the official opposition.
The Prime Minister physically grabbing people, elbowing people.
Not only was this the furthest thing from a feminist act.
I was elbowed in the chest by the Prime Minister. It was very overwhelming.
That tried to grab a fellow MP by the arm and drag him down the aisle because he wasn't happy at the pace of a vote happening. It was Justin Trudeau that fired the first Indigenous Attorney General A proud woman. Why? Because she exposed that he was trying to get her to drop charges on a corrupt Liberal-linked multinational corporation that had robbed over $1 million from the poorest people in Africa. And what did he do? I know, and it starts at the top. And I know, look, CBC never wants Justin Trudeau, the big boss, to be held accountable for his conduct. Same thing. Your Canadian press, your biggest client is CBC, right? You're not sure. I think you're sure. I think you are sure. And I think you know that Justin Trudeau is the head of the government, and the CSIS is part of the government. So I know every time CP writes a story about the latest screw-up in our country, they forget to mention who's the Prime Minister, right? So here's the reality. Justin Trudeau is the head of the government. CSIS is part of the government. If there's a toxic culture in CSIS, it's because the head of the government has caused that toxic culture. And he's done it by setting the example, by mistreating women in his cabinet, in the parliament, in the public service, by dividing one group of Canadians against another, and turning the people against each other within the government and within our society. And that's why after 8 years of Trudeau, there's a toxic workplace at CSIS. There's toxic divisions right across our country. What we need is a common sense government that will hold abusers accountable for how they mistreat fellow employees, and bring in a professional workplace, which we always had in Canada's public service before Justin Trudeau. By the way, I find it incredible that CSIS officials have been leaking about foreign interference in our politics, probably because Justin Trudeau has tried to manipulate the intelligence and cover it up. And that could be contributing to the toxic workplace environment that exists at CSIS and the similar stories we've seen at the RCMP and across the government after 8 years of Justin Trudeau. Thank you.
Thank you. We're just going to move on to this question.
He doesn't take he's taking the gloves off for this one. Oof. So it's quite clear Pierre Poilievre he's had enough. He's had enough of, I'm sure when you're campaigning around the country, you see everything. Like he's mentioned the carpenter who lives in his van, the nurses that live in their vans, people on the streets of Edmonton in -40. The shelters are full and they can't get in there. It's like, what's going on? It's just the country is in such a horrible state, and I bet he has seen so much of it that we haven't even seen, being out there firsthand and meeting these people firsthand. And he's coming out here without the gloves on and just fully laying into Trudeau. Trudeau is a disgrace to our country. He will go down as the worst prime minister in Canadian history. And he's got to be one of the worst prime ministers, one of the worst leaders on planet Earth. And that's saying something considering how many dictatorships there are out there. Our country is full of minerals, oil and gas, rare earths, metals. We could be so rich. Our country could be so rich. Every person in this country could be so wealthy, kind of like they have in Dubai, where their oil money has made people so wealthy. Everyone is so well off down there. We could have the same thing. I bet with a proper leader, like potentially Pierre Poilievre here, we could have so many LNG plants, nuclear, minerals, you name it. We could probably afford, I'm not saying we'd do this or if necessarily the best thing to do, but I'm saying we could probably afford to have a UBI of $100,000 per person. That's how rich our country is. If you compare this to, say, like a small country like Switzerland or, Luxembourg or whatever, they just don't have the opportunity. We have so much land, so many minerals, so many resources. The new shipping lanes now are starting to head up through the north there. There's just so much potential with our country, yet we have the absolute biggest bonehead, dimwit, dumb loser Justin Trudeau running our country into the ground and running us into the ground at his expense, at the expense of him getting rich. He is a narcissistic pig that is destroying our country, and we have had enough. People are standing up. We've got Pierre Poilievre here at the head of this charge, and I sure hope that he is the man of his word that he says he is, because our country could prosper for decades with him. I sure hope that is what is to come. So share your thoughts on how Pierre has taken off the gloves here and really laying it in thick on Justin Trudeau. Are you hopeful for the future? Either way, I'll keep you guys informed. Be sure to thumbs up the video, subscribe, and turn on that bell notification so you get notified of all my videos. Stay warm, stay fed. I'll see you guys in the next one.